Oh, oh hey, long time no see. Yeah, I know it's been a while, but here I am back. It has been quite a while since I have put a video up, but yeah, I'm ready to get back into the swing of things. So let's get started. Hello again. If you're new here, my name is Zoe. This is Felicity Yarn Studio. I'm a fiber artist, and this is where I share what I've been working on. So I'm primarily a knitter, spinner. I do some crochet. I recently dabbled in some weaving. I also dye yarn under the name Felicity Yarn Studio, and if you want to check that out, that is over on Etsy. But yeah, this is probably a weird one for you to dive in on because I have not recorded in probably close to a year. I don't even remember. I meant to sit down and watch my last episode to see what I had even been talking about. So apologies if this is extra chaotic. It's always chaotic here, but I have a feeling this one's gonna be extra. I have no notes. I have piles of stuff. We're just gonna go where the flow takes us, roll with the punches, whatever other idioms you can think of for that. So I guess you would think that since it's been a year since I've recorded, I've gotten all kinds of projects done and have all kinds of finished objects to share with you guys. And the reality is that I don't. Life was pretty chaotic last year. I think that's the theme of this episode, is gonna be chaos. Without getting into all of the personal stuff right here off the top, yeah, my husband dealt with some health issues. We had some other stuff personally, like trees falling in our yard. Hurricane Helene blew through the region. Sad news, we lost both Darcy and Oliver last year. So there were a lot of adjustments and changes. There were a lot of good things that happened too. So I don't want to focus completely on all of the negatives, but all that being said, between dyeing up advent calendars and just everyday life stresses, I didn't finish a whole lot of stuff last year. I really just did not feel motivated to work on a whole lot. You'll notice a theme that it's a lot of simple stuff that I worked on. I'm gonna save the one kind of more intricate thing for next time, because there will be a next time. I'm committing to this. But yes, I'm gonna save that for next time so I can really give you the full details. What I'm talking about will be the Sea Glass Cardi, which was a pattern that I test knit for Wool and Pine last year. I feel like I need to actually make notes and give y'all proper information on this and not just kind of wing it, since this is like the only finished garment that I made in the last year. In the meantime, I'm pretty sure I was working on this when I recorded last, and this is the Framework Bralette by Jessie Mae Martinson. So I knit mine out of some Spectrum. I actually think I have it inside out. The wrong side goes on the outside. There we go. So yes, this is the Framework Bralette by Jessie Mae Martinson, and I knit mine out of Spectrum fiber. I don't remember the colorway name, but it was one of her autumn colorways. It had something to do with like falling leaves or something like that. This is a pattern that is written in DK weight. So I used 2 strands of a fingering or sock yarn held together for this. And as far as I remember, I did enjoy knitting this. Her patterns are always very clear, pretty easy to understand. I don't remember, again, off the top of my head, like what size I knit for my bust, etc. I'll try to put some of that stuff on the screen for you. And let's be real, I do not have a small bust. This is purely for just like around the house. I get home after the gym and I just want to throw something on without, you know, the girls flapping around. It's like the most minor amount of support, but it was fun to knit. It was an interesting construction. I do like it. I think if I was gonna make another one, I would go even tighter on the gauge. Maybe that would be a little bit more supportive, and maybe even something, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but even something non-superwash or something that doesn't have the like stretchiness to it. So maybe even like a natural fiber, like a cotton or a linen would be an interesting choice to make one of these to really compare how the fibers behave, because this is knit at such a tight negative ease to provide you with the stretch and support that one might get from a wool bralette. Look, I'm sure there are plenty of other small-chested people out there who will get more mileage out of a pattern like this. I'm not bashing the pattern by any means. I'm just being realistic about my body and knowing how I like things to wear and to fit me. So I am happy that I made it. It does get worn and used. And again, I would knit this again, maybe making some slight changes to get a little bit more functionality out of something like that. Up next, I have a finished Musselburgh hat. This is a pattern by Isolde Teague, and I'm sure if you've ever watched a knitting podcast, you have seen this pattern, but if you have not, yeah, it's essentially one long tube that you double up and fold in half to get the classic kind of beanie or toque shape, whatever you call them. What do you guys call them regionally, wherever you are? I call them a beanie. It's just what I've always called them. But anyway, this colorway is something that I dyed up. It was the 25th color, the main skein from the advent calendars that I dyed up in 2023, so the dressmaker's advent calendar. It's based off of this really beautiful gown that was this nice pretty silvery blue base with things like flowers and butterflies and moths, and just really inspired me with this colorway. So this is something that I would like to dye up and have as a shop regular. I will get to my dyeing conundrum at the end of this video. This was my travel knitting throughout 2023 and parts of 2024. I don't remember when I finished it. It's a Musselburgh hat. It's been in rotation this winter. The last two things I have to share are, no surprises here, socks. So these are some DK weight socks that I have knit up. I actually was going through some of my like project bags and found this kind of half finished pair of socks. I had finished one and like maybe the foot of the second one. So they're DK weight, but I did hold sock yarn double. The toe is something that I dyed up for the big mohair cardigan that I knit. I don't remember what Hellebore is the colorway down there. The heel, I want to say, was from Olan Yarns, and the cuff was from Ching Fibers, and the main colorway is from Kindred Red. That was her crystalline colorway. So yeah, like I said, I kind of found these and they were just really easy to knock out in a weekend or so. You can kind of tell on the heel, or not the heel, the cuff here. I think this is the one that I finished second because the cuff doesn't look, it still looks kind of tight. I don't know, but yeah, they turned out fine. They fit just fine. I really like DK weight socks for around the house. I don't like wearing them with shoes necessarily. I usually stick with the traditional sock yarn for wearing with shoes, but for around the house, they kind of cross that slipper sock line. So couldn't tell you when these got done, but they got done. And finally, these are my Swifty socks. These are made with yarn from Mustache Fibers. They're kind of one of the best at self-striping yarn. So I think she released this colorway like right as the Eras tour started. That is why they only have 11 out of the 12 colors for each album. I went on ahead and did 3 repeats of the colorway, and that left me with almost a 4th repeat, but not quite. So I really feel like I maximized all of the yarn out of this skein. I intentionally, you know, was going for a longer tube sock with that. Now the heel, I had marked the heel. I should have done it in between Folklore and Lover, but I kind of forgot and accidentally cut in on this side of it. It's fine. It just means that I got to do an extra shallow heel. So maybe I stumbled across a new fitting heel. I don't know. I don't care. They fit. I haven't worn them with shoes yet, so I'm not sure how that heel is going to stay on my foot when I wear it with shoes, but I love them. It turned out so pretty, and I just used an undyed mini skein of yarn to do the heels and cuff. I do sometimes wish that I had done it on the toe as well. That way I could have had just a little bit more on the leg, but otherwise I think I did like a 64 or 68 stitch sock to fit nicely on the foot. And then when I got up to right around here towards the top of the leg, I knew that I was gonna have to increase a little bit to fit my calf a little better. So I just threw in a couple of increase rows, maybe like 2 or 3 spaced out evenly among the last kind of 3 or 4 stripes here. You really can't even tell, but I could tell when I put them on that I definitely needed those extra to wear them kind of high. They hit almost to my knees, not quite to my knees, so it's pretty close. So it's probably the longest pair of hand knit socks that I have ever really made. I usually just go for, I would normally end my socks probably about here. I usually like them to be about as long as the foot for the heel. So it's got a couple extra inches. So yeah, that's it. That, including the cardigan, is the extent of what I completed project-wise in the last year. That's not to say that I haven't worked on other stuff, because I will get to that in a minute. But as far as finished stuff goes, that was about the maximum that I had the brain space for. It is what it is. I'm not upset about it. I'm not beating myself up over it. I am making at my own pace. I kind of like making at a slower pace. I am still, you know, doing things in the dye pots when I can. Churning out almost 100 advent calendars every year is a lot of work, and that actually does take a lot of my creative energy as well. So anyway, minor rant over. So what else have I been working on, you might ask? Let's get into the Alvar sweaters. So I do believe I had shared this the last time I recorded. So last year for my birthday, I had wanted to start a new jumper, and I pattern browsed and browsed until I came across the Alvar sweater by Sari Nordlund. And I do believe I had at least like the front or back panels done. I haven't made a ton of progress, but you'll hear why in a second. So I have since joined the front and the back and completed a couple inches there under the sleeve, and I have since knit the entire first sleeve because I was a little bit worried about yarn chicken. I am using yarn from Webs or yarn.com. It is their house yarn, Valley Yarns in the Westfield base. It is 60% merino, 20% silk, and 20% yak. They're 50-gram balls with like 120 yards each. So the pattern was actually designed in a different yarn, but it was the same fiber content. And that's really what I was going for. I wanted to have the same fiber content, so it would have kind of the drape that Sorry Nordland's piece does in the pattern. If I remember correctly, and I'll correct myself on the screen if I need to, I chose the size that will give me a finished bust of 54 inches, which will give me anywhere from 4 to 6 inches of positive ease. And based off of the yarn estimates that she has on the pattern, I should have had enough. I should have actually had more than what her yarn estimate was, because I did order an extra ball of yarn. They had a like buy 12 get the 13th free or something like that promotion. However, this thing is eating yarn. I even went up a needle size to get gauge. I don't know. I feel like I'm very, very tight on this because it's, my ring light just died. All right, sorry about that. My ring light cut off. I had to put the thing on the charger. Hopefully I've got enough juice to get me through. I'm probably gonna have to cut a few things. That's fine. I have plenty to talk about in the future. But anyway, where was I? I think I was talking about my potential yarn chicken here with this. That just completely derailed me. Yes, so it is supposed to be slightly oversized, and the sleeves are meant to be like extra long, like almost cover your fingers long. I found that I was very quickly burning through yarn with this. This first sleeve took about 2.5 of the balls of yarn, and then I had like 2 set aside for this one and then 3 for the rest of the body. And I don't mind this being cropped. It is supposed to be a cropped sweater, but I felt like this is not even covering my whole chest area. 3 just wasn't going to be enough. So I ordered my original sweaters quantity last January for my birthday. I went on to Webs this year, and they do have a thing in their checkout where you can request the same dye lot, and wouldn't you know, it was a birthday miracle. The 4 extra balls of yarn that I ordered came in and they were from the same dye lot, so that felt very serendipitous. I mean, I'm not super surprised given that this is a commercial yarn, that they were all probably produced at the same time in the same dye lot. So otherwise, yes, this is a really enjoyable pattern. It is a lot of fun to knit because it's all textured knits and purls all over. It's the same 3 motifs that get repeated. So I've almost memorized all of them except for this tiny diamond one. For whatever reason, my brain like fritzes out like halfway through that chart and I have to pull it back up and look at it. So I would like to finish this before winter is over. I kind of stalled when I finished this sleeve because I didn't know what my yarn situation was going to be. And then I was stuck with, well, I'm stuck either picking up the neckband and doing the neckband or picking up the sleeve and doing the sleeve. And then I was like, well, I don't know if the yarn that comes in is going to be the same dye lot, so I was a little hesitant to start working on the body again. But now I have no more excuses because my yarn is here, it all matches. It's time to finish this baby. So the biggest thing that I have been working on over the last year, I kind of periodically pull it out and work on it hard. I get sucked into it for a few weeks at a time, and then it goes and sits back in timeout for a little while. That's not really even timeout. It just, I need a break from it. Is my Battenberg blanket, which this is like one of the very first projects that I started when I started this channel. And here is where we are at. It has grown quite a bit. I am making this for my king size bed in our bedroom. So like I said, I've been making really good progress on this. So I think this row is where, this is what I had the last time I recorded. And I have just about done a little bit more than double that now. Yeah, it's about 4 or 5 rows more double, and I've added 2 or 3 rows along the bottom as well. So the big road bump that I've kind of run into in the last few weeks with this, like I said, I'm making it for our king size bed. I had done the math. Math is not my forte, but I had done the math. And I thought that I needed something like 41 squares across by like 48 tall, maybe. Anyway, I laid it down on the bed because I thought I was getting close. I was like less than 10 squares away from hitting 41 across. It was not close. It's not super far. I underestimated it by about 10 squares. And I think what I did is I, for some reason, used the measurement of the mattress and not like what a king size blanket with those proportions are. So anyway, it was back to the drawing board. I realized that I need about 300 more color squares. At this point, I thought that I had all of the color squares done, and it was just a matter of making the white squares to join them as I go. My kind of method for doing this is I would pick out ones to go for each row here. So I would then crochet like 5 or 6 of the white ones and leave them all attached to the yarn, and then join each color and white square to what I already have done. And yes, I'm a little bit neurotic and a little bit of a control freak when it comes to this project. I want them to look random, but evenly balanced random. So I've been dividing the color squares into 4 bags, like gallon Ziploc bags. This is what I have left of the first quarter, pre-realizing that I needed more squares. So this is like a quarter that I have not joined yet. So there's 3 more of these in this bag. Like I said, I usually have about 5 or 6 balls of undyed white yarn to make, and like within a night I can usually get 1, possibly 2 rows of white and then a color, and then white and then a color done. So anyway, I am close to being a quarter of the way done. It's all about perspective, right? I think when I redid the math and I counted everything, including all of the white ones that I've joined, I was like 15 to 18% done with this blanket. Yeah, there's a reason that it's been around for years now. That being said, I've made the most progress in the last like 3 to 6 months on this thing. So I wish you could really get a sense of how big it is, how big it's going to be. It's going to be massive. I know I'm crazy. I know this. I accept this. But it makes me so happy. It's so beautiful. I love the way that the eyelets form this like cross stitch pattern. Yeah. So that being said, I have plenty of colorful pastel-ish, neon-ish sock yarn, fingering weight yarn. I'm using all kind of either 100% superwash or like the 75-25 nylon, superwash nylon blend, like traditional sock yarn, because heaven forbid I ever need to actually throw that in the washing machine. I can do that. I really do not want to do that, but if it ever needs to happen, it can happen. And I'm doing my best to sew in all the ends as I go. Like some nights, that's all I do is just go back and sew in all of my ends. And that's fine. Some nights that's all I want to do on it. So like I said, right around Christmas and New Year's, I was sucked in hard to this. When I did my recount, I started making some more color squares, and then I was like, I think I need to break again, because I kind of wanted to cry when I redid the maths and the numbers. So now that I've pulled it back out though, I'm like, I might be ready to work on this again. So we'll see how that pans out. So here's another whip that I'm just kind of working on at whatever pace I feel like. This is the Osaka shawl. I don't know the designer's name off the top of my head, but it was a pattern that came with this yarn that I purchased when Naomi and I went to London in 2023. We went to Loop. It's a really cute little yarn shop, and I purchased 5 colors of the Edo mohair silk. They're little 25-gram balls of yarn, and literally all you do is cast on X number of stitches. I'm not going to give it away because it is technically a paid pattern, but you get it for free when you buy it at the store with the yarn. Cast on X number of stitches, and it's just plain old stockinette, knit and purl back and forth with a single strand of lace weight mohair on size 6 needles. So I will say it's not for the faint of heart. There's nothing hard or challenging about it other than you're knitting with lace weight mohair. It's actually been kind of what I've been picking up at nights, just because I don't have to think about anything. Like again, with the Alvar, I had decisions to make about the yarn and where I was going to pick up and start working next with that, and same with Battenberg. So this is kind of replaced like sock knitting for me. I'm big on sock knitting because it's just 2 at a time. I can just go round and round and round, but this has kind of replaced that for me. And you know, now that I've adapted and adjusted to it, I don't find working with the lace weight to be too cumbersome. My only complaint is that like my long tails are getting kind of hung up on the yarn, so I might go ahead and sew those in, weave those in. But yeah, I've started the second color. There's 5 total colors, and it just makes this kind of light, airy shawl slash scarf. It's a beautiful finished object. They had a sample in the store. That's kind of what made me like fall in love with it. So these are my other 3 colors. I've done the gray and the peach, and I have this pretty green and pink and purple. I don't remember off the top of my head which order I plan on doing them in. But yeah, I think it's gonna make a really nice kind of elegant soft shawl. So yeah, like I said, I'm surprised myself in the last last few weeks, this is what I've been gravitating towards, and the stitch markers are just so I can keep track on how many rows that I've been doing, but really whoever wrote the pattern was pretty accurate on how many rows you're going to get out of each ball of yarn, because yeah, I have no leftovers from the first color here, which is fine by me. So yeah, the Osaka shawl is coming right along, and yeah, I feel a little bit rushed now because I don't know how much light I'm gonna have to finish this up. I don't remember if I was spinning this or if I had finished it the last time that I recorded, but this is some merino and tencel 50/50 fiber. It was 2 braids that my mom purchased for me on her travels out to the West Coast. I'll put the tag and everything on the screen because I don't remember which shop, if it was Oregon or Washington where she got this, but she did say they had a lot of spinning fiber there. So yeah, I spun this up as a 2-ply. I just did singles, each braid as their own single, and then plied them together. I would love to make a little summer top out of this, something kind of lacy and breezy, but I am not finding much out there of what I want to make. I would say this is probably a fingering weight yarn, maybe sport weight, which again, with hand spun, there's kind of some, you know, ambiguity there. I don't remember my yardage. It's approximately 2 skeins worth of fingering yarn, so maybe like 800 yards. I'm okay with it being cropped. If nothing else, there's always some Jessie May Martinson patterns that are kind of, you know, t-shirty, summery patterns, but I was hoping for something a little more lacy. I thought about the Wild Wind by Woolen Pine, and I'm even open to crochet options with this because I want to wear this when we go to the beach, because the tencel should be pretty breathable fabric, but it is very like silky, lacy, drapey kind of fiber. It's very like, I don't know if slick is the right word. It's very like shiny and slippery. So I think it's going to have a lot of drape. But if you have any pattern suggestions, please drop them down below. I am also not opposed to adapting potentially a pattern for a heavier weight. But this is what I really am itching to cast on next. I've almost caked it up like 3 or 4 times now, but I'm like, I need to wait until I know exactly what I want to cast on with it. So let me know if you have any pattern suggestions for this. I have finished another spinning project that's pretty big, but I'm going to save that for next time as well. Again, because there's kind of some detail and nuance to it that I don't feel like I can get into right now. So I guess that lastly brings up the weaving that I mentioned at the top. So my mom had lent me her Ashford rigid heddle loom. It is not the biggest loom, and that's fine. It's kind of like lap size, but I have been working with it on the stand. I did make kind of a rookie mistake and loaded the warp up on the wrong end of the loom, so technically I have it like upside down and facing me when I'm working on it. It's still like doing what it's supposed to do. It's just a little bit awkward at times, like advancing the weave forward. But yeah, I just threw some yarn on. I did not bring it upstairs. It's a little bit unwieldy to bring up a full flight of stairs, so I'm just gonna take some footage and put it in for you guys. I didn't realize at the time when I was warping it up that, I don't remember, the shed, I think that's the thing that holds the warp pieces into place. I didn't realize that was actually for a heavier weight yarn, like a DK weight yarn. I warped it up with a fingering weight yarn that I had. tied up, and I'm doing the weft again with a fingering weight, just, you know, sock yarn or whatever. The warp is again something that I dyed up on my new base, which is a neon net base, which I'm sure you've been seeing go around all the different dyers playing with this new base. And then for the weft, it is from Junk Yarn and one of her colorways named Marsha, which is one of these kind of very busy variegated yarns that I wouldn't ever know what to actually like knit with that. Again, other than like making like granny squares, or I suppose you could do a shawl or a hat or something. But I kind of like the way that it's working up as a scarf. I kind of didn't realize until after I had already dove in headfirst on this project that it was essentially going to make like a 12-inch wide scarf, and that's fine. I think if I had used a heavier weight yarn, it would be closer to like the 16 inches that is the actual like length of the loom. So I'm really curious to finish that up and take it off and kind of see what my tension is doing. I really kind of got the hang of it after the first, I don't even know how far into it, maybe like quarter to a third of the way. I'd say I'm like halfway through, but I did finally start to find my rhythm with, again, finding the right tension. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to take it off of the loom and see how it shrinks up or doesn't shrink up. I don't know. I am not a baby steps type of person when I want to learn something and do something new. I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna do maybe not the hardest thing, but like, I feel like if you want to learn how to knit and you want to learn how to knit socks, learn how to knit socks. If you want to learn to do amigurumi or however you say those little critter things, go for it. Like, I think you're gonna be happier with your finished product if you just go for the thing that you want in the end, because you're still going to learn the lessons along the way. So that's the way I feel about this weaving project. Again, I started it knowing that it wasn't necessarily going to be like the epitome of the perfect woven piece of cloth, right? Like, it's my practice, but I wanted to do it in yarn that I liked. I wanted it to potentially be something that I would wear. If I don't wear it, it is what it is. Again, it's a learning experience to me. So I started that right after Thanksgiving, I would say, like between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And now that I've finished a spinning project, my knitting is kind of, I've put the Battenberg away. I've kind of cleared some space back again in the living room. I think I really want to finish that weaving. I want to actually set up the loom properly now that I know these things. I learn by doing. So I want to, you know, weave on the correct end of the loom and use like a heavier yarn with it. I'm really curious to see how those changes affect whatever I wind up making. What I would like to weave. All right, I got cut off again, so I guess that is my clue to wrap this up. So yeah, if you guys have been around for a while, again, last time I talked about how my husband had spent some time in the hospital and had been dealing with some health issues. In June, we got some good news that his condition was not getting worse. We are going back next week, actually, for them to run the tests again. So that is good. Keep your fingers crossed that everything continues to like hold steady where it is. Unfortunately in June, right after we got that good news and like a bunch of stress lifted off of me, we had to make the really tough decision to say goodbye to Darcy. She was just an old lady. She was almost 19. She was my girl, my homie. I literally had her from day one, so that was really heartbreaking, but at the same time, it was almost a relief because she had been, you know, essentially on kitty hospice for the last 2 or 3 months. And yeah, life was, it's been a bunch of ups and downs, like I said. A few months after that, Ollie just kind of out of nowhere went downhill right after we got back from Thanksgiving. So again, it was a situation of like, it was a lot more shocking with him, I guess, because we weren't really expecting it. I didn't know that he wasn't doing that all that great. But in between kind of July and December, there's been a neighborhood stray who was kind of hanging around our house. I was taking Ollie outside a whole lot because he really loved being outdoors. And this cat, who we have since named Pepe, he has been hanging around. He became Ollie's little companion for his last few months. And Pepe has taken to taking over our house. So we're kind of officially adopting him, I guess. I'm almost certain he's either a stray or someone dumped him. He has had human contact because he loves to be held. He's just the sweetest, like big cuddly tomcat. He's got these fat tomcat cheeks. So he's unfixed. We are actually taking him tomorrow to the vet to get that taken care of, but he got a clean bill of health. Nobody in the neighborhood is claiming him. He's kind of always fighting with Melvin, the other neighbor cat. So I really want to get him fixed, and hopefully he'll kind of calm down and chill out a little bit. I would love to make him 100% house cat, but I don't foresee changing his ways. He's definitely not a young cat. He's probably like in the 5-year-old-ish range. Just taking a wild stab there at his age. But yeah, other than that, Jason and I took a trip up to Chicago. We really enjoyed that city. We kind of hit all the major sites that you can do in a weekend, a long weekend. We had the pizza, we had the hot dogs. I preferred the hot dogs to the pizza. Yeah, and the holidays were good. I got to see Naomi. She has since moved a lot closer. She lives in South Carolina. It's about a 3-hour drive from where we are, so that's really nice to have her closer. She and I have talked about meeting up eventually and like doing some joint episodes, so we gotta get our schedules coordinated on that. But otherwise, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up before my light cuts off on me again. And I've got to get this thing edited for you guys. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you liked this episode, if you made it this far, I hope that you'll consider liking the video, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. I'm really gonna make an effort to get back into at least once a month. Like I said, I'm making a lot more. I'm feeling more motivated. Not motivated, inspired. How about that? Oh, the only other thing that I meant to throw in here at the end. So last year's advent calendar theme was Monet in winter. I didn't even like get a chance to like publicize this on YouTube. I was so checked out of doing YouTube. Anyway, this is what that kit wound up looking like. So I have had some requests for some redyes of this calendar. I am planning on doing another small run of these. Our house is currently testing my patience. We have had some issues with our plumbing outside. So the theory currently is that there is a cracked pipe or some tree roots growing into one of the pipes outside. So we're getting a lot of blockage and I can't run the water for very long at my house right now. So I need water in order to dye yarn. I had planned on starting this redye already. So this has put a major kink in my plans, but those will be coming soon, hopefully. I want to get them underway before I go ahead and put the listing up for those. Yeah, I'll spare you guys the list of everything else that kind of went wrong between like September and now. Just know that it was a lot. Our savings has taken a major hit this year, but that's what it's there for, I suppose. If you're in the market for a house, buy the newer house. That is my recommendation to you. Older houses are lovely and charming, and they have personality, and by personality, that means they are a money pit. Yeah. Sorry, house. I do love you. I appreciate you. Please do not break anything else. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you again so much for joining me. If you want to follow me on Instagram, that's usually where I am the most active, and I will check in with you guys soon. All right, bye. Pepe, what are you doing? You sleepy boy? Are those little air biscuits? Hmm? Hmm? Mm-hmm. You sleepy boy?